Hi Modern.com, I'm Stefano Tonchi.
I'm Sissy Vian.
And we are here in Milan at Corso Como 10 in a beautiful bookstore and art space.
I started a long time ago as a student that start to model. I think that for me was very important to understand how the business was working. Was another time, was end of 80s. Now the business evolved and is totally different time. For me, was very important to understand how it's going between photographer and models, and also to understand the different people working in the business. But I have to say that the most important thing was to understand how precious are the girl. You have 30 seconds to look, and is how she can express what she has inside or what you think.
Even from, a little bit of an outsider point of view, I spent a lot of time on sets, but the idea of the casting, finding the right face that can express what is the story that you want to tell, it's so important. Sometimes, you have an actor that comes in and you think, this is not who I think this person should be. And suddenly, when the light goes on and the clothes are there, it's all come together.
When I started the magazine, we did two different covers. One was my muse, Vittoria Ceretti, Italian muse, and the other one was Alix Butters. She was doing probably something before. She was not really doing so much. And I found in her face, in her attitude, new kind of beauty. Vittoria was the classic, beautiful girl. And Alix represented to me something very innocent, new, and modern, because she was kind of androgyne. And with her face, with her eyes, she was expressed exactly what I was thinking,
It's very strange that I came up in the 80s when we really didn't have a lot of icons and people to look at. Actually, we were refusing everything that was there. We didn't want to look at Vogue, we didn't want to look at Bazaar, we didn't want to look at any of these publications. So I really didn't have teachers in a certain way. I had a lot of great companions. When I think about the people, at the face, like Nick Logan or like Nabil Brody, and then I think people at ID. Terry Jones is still probably my idol, but I also see Terry as somebody that I grew up with. And so Ingrid Sissy at Interview, or even before at our forum, all these people that were looking at clothes and fashion in a larger context of culture, of art, of photography, of cinema, and they were creating incredible publication. It's kind of an interesting way to go back, but more finding idols in a different time. And I think every designer of my generation, they were not looking back. They were only looking forward and looking at their kind of peers. Everybody was very competitive somehow. We were not looking at, what old masters were doing. I would say me and Sissy both, we grew up in a world where fashion was a much smaller business, I would say. So it's a very different time. So we had to live through the making of the mainstream, all those things that we started as, I would say, independent publication, photographers that were independent photographers, they all became big stars. Superstars. Everything became big, super large, extra large, I think that I lived through that, and I lived that really in first person. I went to work for Esquire magazine. I went to work for the New York Times magazine. I went to work with W and at Condé Nast. And each one of these magazines was a national publication with a very large audience. And that's changing my way of thinking. But still, I think I always try to keep to understand my audience. I think it's very, very important to know who is your audience. On one way, with Bazaar, I think it's something that is at the crossroad between mainstream and, I would say, a national Italian publication. Sissy can talk more about that, how you position Bazaar in Italy before I even arrived.
I try to be less mainstream, actually. But, no, I mean, Bazaar is Bazaar. It was a new project in Italy, totally new. I mean, old name, but new project. My background is Condé Nast. I was there for 35 years. I was lucky to growing up with Franca Sozzani, and in certain way, this is still in my DNA. You try to do something unique, not something that is around. I try to ask myself, how can be Bazaar now in Italy, and what I can bring in terms of as Italian, and with my international background to this kind of publication. In Italy, we are very spoiled because we got 30 years of Italian Vogue, which was very strong magazine publication with a point of view that was just here and just unique. At the same time, what I feel interesting is I want to keep my Italian roots in an international position. I mean, my language has to be international.
Really what I found interesting is to have this identity that is very Italian, that has a lot of history, but is positioned in an international context. It's not a provincial voice, but we are part of an international conversation. But we want to bring to that conversation, to that table, like our experience as Italian, and a set of values that are the values of the Italian fashion, that somehow we reflect, we mirror that capacity of the Italian fashion to be at the same time incredibly Italian, but probably the most successful fashion in the world in terms of producing like the most of what people buy around the world.
So you need to prove that you can speak an international language. And after, maybe you have to be consistent and starting also with a different voice, new photography, new models, new people, new designer. To support them, because I don't think it's easy for this new generation to popping up.
While, France and Paris opened the door to foreigners, the Japanese first, and then there were the Belgian, and it is really like an international capital. Milan has been really, really late to open the door, and the Italian designer hold their power in their hands. We have produced in the last 30 years the best assistant designers in the world, the best marketing expert. You look at all the CEOs in France, in the US, they all come from Italy. But somehow we didn't have the space to grow that kind of originality, even like a kind of rebellion, that was so part of, especially in England, of what British fashion is. And even in the US, it's so much about rebellion. In Milan, you don't find anybody rebelling.
So I really would love to change this. I mean, one of my purpose, and the Italians have their own place in Italy.
I always thought that print is and should be a luxury, more today than ever. I mean, I think that the world has evolved, things have changed. Sure, there is a whole universe that is about digital, about information, about news, about all those things that we consume and that we don't need to print, technically. In my publication, when I can make the decision, I completely eliminated the news. I completely eliminated the front of the book, because that belongs to your telephones at this point. Who wants to see a picture from 2 nights ago in 1 month? Who wants to read something that you already have seen on your phone? So when you go to print, you have to create something that is worth it to be collected and hold to time. So I think the future for print is creating niche publication that have very specific audience and that you serve, that you know your audience, you know what they want, you have a conversation with them, and you kind of provide them with an analysis or in-depth kind of stories or images that enrich your life in a certain way. Something that you want to keep with you and not just throw away. One of the goals that me and Sissy have for the next season is to really give to every issue a theme and a unique reason to be and tell a story that goes from cover to cover. So we want to really focus and bring the magazine into kind of making alive somehow through also experiences and through like a special distribution and tied to moment in the life of our readers. So it's sure there are like the fashion moment, but then there will be also a moment about architecture and design. Then there is a moment about films. Then there is a moment that we want to create about literature, more than just fashion, and to create really a contest for the fashion stories.
It's not that maybe we can have all the goal done by the 2025, but we try to add more and more to in order to give a word, like a flavor of our word, and more intellectual maybe fashion, but also lifestyle in somehow.
You also have to bring the magazine in the hands of the people that want the magazine. What I mean is that we have a broken system with newsstands that are disappearing, with people that don't go to the newsstand. So how do you reach, especially market like in Europe, where subscriptions are not the model? You want to bring them like at art events, in gallery and museums, in places where people can access, people that understand, that has the education to look at Bazaar, can access to the magazine. That's kind of a large issue, but when you talk about the future of print, the future of magazine, I think that's something that we have to deal. Magazines have to change and adapt to the new reality.
I try with Stefano to choose singular voices, like unique. For me, it's very important, strong vision and unique vision. It's totally the opposite probably that is fashion now, is trendy now. I really believe in this, in the talent and a singular point of view, personal point of view. Like
I believe that, especially when you are working for a monthly magazine, one of these like, I would say collectible publication, you want to be definitive. What I mean is like you don't want to be rushing, you don't want to be necessarily like trendy, you don't want to necessarily be the first. I mean, one of the things that I hate the most is like, but you're not going to be the first. Yes, but I want to be the best. I want to be the one that does the definitive story that goes into the books, something that is going to be remembered. It's not just about being the first. That's kind of a method, and let Instagram be the first.
It's about voices, singular voices, unique voices. And in this sense, we become like a kind of a platform. Our community is very small because the magazine is very young, and to build up a strong vision and identity, like brand identity, something that you see on the table and say, oh, let me see, that's Italian Bazaar.
I think we have to go back to, kind of creating publication that serves specific audiences at a very high level of quality. And then for the rest, sure, we can do a lot of research and a lot of news and a lot of work on digital. That's the way we communicate today. One doesn't mean that eliminates the other. They have, I would say, two different functions. in a certain way. It's like, sure, you watch your TV and you watch a lot of movies also on your TV at this point, but there is quite a unique experience that is to be in a theater and see something like on a big screen. And I think our magazines should be that experience, the big screen. From the beginning, Sissy saw the magazine as almost like a fashion Bible and always like with models on the cover. And I think that has defined the space for this magazine, this publication.
It doesn't mean that we want to publish actresses, but for me also that is, actresses, I'm talking about actresses, but talents, let's say.
Yeah.
But in somehow, has to be
A
the
fashion
face
story.
of
They
the
have to
moment
come to work in our arena.
fashion.
If we have a collaboration with an actress, has to be a collaboration. I mean, and has to be with somebody that understands fashion. I always talk to designers about their responsibility, because so many fashion designers have such a great following, and they can really send messages out there, positive messages about the body, about race, about gender. And that's really what is so important about the power of fashion today.
And also to start again to sell dreams, to make people dream. It's a wonderful job, you are lucky, so you have to make people dream. You have to give beauty back to the world.